So you remember about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago where everybody was so excited and they were doing these juice cleanses and having all these great benefits for it? Well, of course, your girl, she wanted to have that nice glowy glass skin. So I did a juice cleanse. And baby, let me tell you, not only after like day three was your girl hungry, super hungry, but I just felt so overwhelmed. I had so many emotions coming up. And it's emotions that I had, I guess, buried for such a long time. So my body was not only detoxing toxins out of my body, but it was actually detoxing toxins out of my mind and my heart at the same time. I don't know about you, but have you experienced that? Have you done a juice cleanse or any sort of cleanse? I know it's still the beginning of the year, so there are people who have done like the Daniel fast, where there's only certain things that you are allowed to eat during that time period. Did anything emotional or even energetic come up for you during that time too? Well, that's when I learned the hard way about emotional detox. And while we talk about this in Western culture, much less than maybe our Eastern counterparts, because we love to talk about gut cleanses, right? We love to talk about liver cleanses and detox. But in so many other ancient traditions and other cultures for centuries, they've known that the mind, body, and spirit were connected. So, of course, you needed to do a detox for your emotions and your energy as well. Hey there, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another Mindful Monday. I'm your host, that's right, your girl, Arika Trimnell, also known as the Mindful Mistress. I'm here to offer us some unique perspectives that help us to grow spiritually and professionally, and always really helping us so that we can embrace every aspect of this crazy, wonderful, beautiful life, this journey, and then help us break free of any prism of limitations. Now, why? The more we know, the more we can make informed decisions for ourselves, right? We can decide what that best next right step is. And everything I tell you, you may not integrate. There might be just a few nuggets that you hear that really just help shift and change your perspective and completely blow open the door to a new way of living and becoming more authentic, coming home to yourself. So today we are going to be exploring the topic of emotional detox, not just from the mindfulness perspective either, but really through the lens of the ancient wisdom. So we'll look at how different cultures really approach emotional healing for centuries, probably even millennials, and then millennia, and how Western society views the concept. So especially if you have struggled with trauma or childhood trauma, and an emotional detox maybe seemed super challenging for you, we're going to get into that today. So if you have been feeling stuck, or if you've been feeling heavy, or if you've been feeling overwhelmed, this is so for you. It's not just because of the crazy political climate and that things are changing left and right here. It could be that you just have repressed emotion that needs to be processed. You have stagnant emotion in somewhere in your body. So long before we had therapy sessions, we had EMDR, ancient cultures understood that emotions carried an energy. And that if they are not processed, if they are stagnant in our bodies, it creates an imbalance. Remember, we're thinking about mind, body, and spirit are together as one. So if there's an imbalance in one, there's an imbalance in all of them as well. So I want to call to attention traditional Chinese medicine, which they believe that emotions are actually they live in our organs. So to give you an example, and you might have heard, I know I come across this on my TikTok all the time and I find it super fascinating, that anger is something that lives in the liver, that we process grief, it's through our lungs, fear is in our kidneys, worries in our spleen, and of course, it comes from the heart. And at any point when these emotions get stagnant, they create and manifest physical symptoms, like perhaps digestive issues if you're over worrying, or a tightness in the shoulders when we have suppressed anger. Now, herbs and acupuncture and qigong are things that really can help release that stagnant energy. And also thinking about the Ayurvedic culture. The mind body connection in Ayurvedic medicine is a system where they talk about how there is a such thing as emotional toxins and how our feelings can really hold the pain of our past. And an imbalance in any one of your doshas, whether it's the pitta or a kapha, can cause a fogginess and emotional instability in other areas of our body as well. So there are practices like self-massage that you can do, breath work, and fasting, all to help you clear this emotion that has been stagnant in your bodies. Now, thinking about some of my indigenous, I probably do have some indigenous roots, but thinking about going back to like my indigenous culture and thinking about shamans, they really understood that emotions carry energetic imprints that can be trapped in the body's spirit. So not just in your body, but in your body's spirit. Think about like your aura. So shamans would perform ceremonies to help release this emotional part of themselves or an emotional part of an individual who's going through some deep emotional issues. So doing some emotional purging, maybe like through a sweat lodge kind of a ceremony, drumming, using the movement, using the vibrations of the drums to help process and cleanse out that. So long before, like I said, our beautiful Western medical model came in, ancient cultures have been using various forms of emotional detox, where here in Western society, it's still relatively new. I don't hear about a lot of people talking about emotional detox. I hear all sorts of detox, but not in emotions. And one of the reasons why I think it's not as common here in Western society is from a young age. I don't know about you, but I can definitely remember telling me, stop crying because I'm gonna give you something to cry about. I remember sayings like, toughen up, why are you being so sensitive? Um, it's this type of culture we have created where we have basically taught our children how to stifle their emotions. We've taught them how to carry it in the body. We've essentially created a culture, we've created a climate, we've created social norms about not showing the full array of emotions. Of course, if you were a happy child, adults and parents loved you. But when you were a child that expressed any emotion that wasn't considered positive, typically most parents, and especially emotionally immature parents, tend to lean towards rhetoric that was less than helpful and that caused stagnation in our body. So we would bury the emotions, we would distract, right? We would go to coping tools, which some of us still go to. Overeating, right? Overworking, numbing, finding things so we're not dealing with this emotions because we're taught that it was bad to have emotions. So the truth is, what we suppress does not disappear. It just gets stored in our body to resurface later as anxiety. Maybe that's the depression that you're feeling right now. Maybe that's the physical pain in your body that you are actually feeling is emotion. So this is why emotion detox is so needed, especially because we're about healing and integration and advancing ourselves. Now, last week, if you were with me, we talked about that self-renewal and being in this messy middle phase. Part of the messy middle phase is the rise and fall of our emotions. Things will come out. You'll have revelations. You'll have aha moments in this messy middle. And part of it is calling for you to release those emotions, to have an emotion detox. Now, thinking about trauma, especially childhood trauma, if you have ever tried to release your emotions and felt completely overwhelmed, panicked, or maybe you even got physically ill, this might be why. Trauma lives in our nervous system. I've talked about this time and time again. And when we experience trauma, especially as babies, our nervous system stores that experience. And if the trauma is not processed, our body stays in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode, which make some emotions super dense and really hard to process in our body. So, to give you an example, let's say as a child, you got maybe punished for expressing your anger. Now, how this can reflect as an adult, you now are at, you now are an adult, and your body might start to instinctively repress anger because it associates anger with danger. Think about that. You now have this association, and it might not be conscious. It might be somewhere in your subconscious where this connection was made, and you've got this neural pathway. So when you try to release it, let's say maybe through journaling or breath work, it might feel very overwhelming. You might actually even be triggered by trying to release this emotion. So, emotional detox is not a one size fits all. If you have a history of trauma, emotional detox should be something that you do very gently and slowly instead of diving off into the deep end into some intense breath work sessions or intense grounding sessions. But I do recommend that you find tools that work for you. Grounding, gentle movement, maybe some stretching or some manipulation, some massage might be working or it might work for you. Healing is really not about forcing our emotions out. Like I know, like I think about I've had a few clients where they're like, oh, I know I've got a processing. I just want to get it out. I just want to, get that one, whether it's a breath work session or we're doing some plant medicine. Let me have that. Let me have the strongest plant medicine so I can just let me just work it out. Well, it doesn't quite work like that, and that's not healing at all. That's a form of bypassing. It's really healing is really about creating space and a pathway for your emotions to be processed at their own pace. But it's you creating that safe space that allows the emotions to actually be processed. So, to give you some tips of some things that you can do or we can do together to help us with our emotional detox, some tools, because it's nice to have tools at the ready. Are of course, a few mindfulness tools. One, a really good one is breath work. Now, breath work, again, considering what you have been through in your life, breath work may not be the thing for you. Breath work is really good for clearing out stagnant energy. And today, one of the things I'm going to talk about is it's the 4-7-8 breath work. So it's where you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 7 seconds, excuse me, and you release for 8 seconds. Repeating something like that, maybe, I don't know, 4 to 5 times, or at least until you feel more comfortable or you feel more relaxed or you know a shift when you feel it, if that makes sense. So at least until you have that, then we can do that. So let's just try one round together. If you're open to it, this is an invitation. Remember, you do not have to show up to every invitation you get. So this is an invitation to show up to do the 4-7-8 breath work. So we're going to inhale for 4. So inhale for 4, hold for 7, and release for 8 counts. Doing that again, repeating it, I already feel a little bit more at peace and at ease. I don't know about you. So maybe let's try it one more time for good measure. So we'll inhale for 4, we will hold for 7, and then we will release on 8. Ready? Inhale, hold, out. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. How do you feel now? Are you a little bit more grounded? Do you feel like your nervous system is maybe if you were a little bit activated, that you have now activated your parasympathetic nervous system, and you're now more in a rest digest mode, it's so good. If not, then do it a few more times. No, if you're comfortable, go ahead and do it a few more times. Something else that is super helpful is journaling. Journaling, journaling how you feel can be a beautiful energy exchange and a release of emotions, a release of holding on what's inside. So something that you can do, it's a prompt called TCM. It's a TCM inspired prompt. So if emotions were stored in my body, where would they be? What do they need to say? And just kind of go journal. Let that flow. If emotions were stored in my body, where would they be? And what would they say? Sit down, write for 5 to 10 minutes. Remember being compassionate with yourself as you're journaling. Think of yourself as you are the healer. And so you don't ever want to say, as you're writing and maybe you reflect and read on it, I shouldn't feel this way. That this shouldn't be. Looking at it from the perspective of, what are these emotions actually here to teach me? And how can I honor these emotions? In Ayurvedic practice, it's that self-kindness is seen as the absolute key to helping you detox. So treating yourself with the utmost kindness and respect and compassion during these times. So one thing I want to harp on or pull out before we end is the difference between energy detox and emotion detox. So emotional detox is not the same thing as an energy detox, but there are some similarities and there is a deep connection. Emotional detox is really about releasing that suppressed emotions, feelings of anger, of sadness, of grief, so that they do not get trapped in your mind and in your body. Now, energy detox is about clearing stagnant or negative energy from both within yourself and your outside influences. So thinking of it as this way. If your emotions were water, energy is really like the riverbed that holds the water. So your emotions are the water, right? Because they're flowing through, and energy is that riverbed, what holds the water so that it can continue to go through. So when your emotions start to build up, they can create blockages. Think of like a dam, right? They could create a blockage. There could be a blockage. So then it doesn't flow. And when energy starts to get stagnant, emotions get stuck. So that's why practices like breath work, sound healing, Reiki, they all support both emotional and energetic detoxes at the same time. So, some days you might feel like you need to process deep emotions. You might need that emotional detox. While there might be other days where, no, I just need to cleanse the energy so that the emotions can move. Smudging, maybe doing some movement, maybe doing sound healing. The key to this is really listening to your intuition, listening to your body, because it's going to know what's best, what you need in that moment. Not what I tell you, what you need based on your intuition and based on how your body is talking to you and those body signals. So emotional detox is not just a trend, it's not a fad, but it's a practice that's deeply rooted in ancient wisdom. And through things like journaling, through things like breath work, self-compassion, everybody can use the power of emotional detox to help clear them out as we're in this messy middle self-renewal phase and getting ready for the next step, our next chapter. So just like with ancient traditions like in Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic or my indigenous healing cultures, recognizing that emotions do get stored in our bodies, and that just because us here in the Western world, we've been programmed to suppress our emotions, doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do, and doesn't mean that that's something you have to continue to do. Think about the times you've swallowed your emotion maybe to keep the peace in the relationship. But what actually it did was cause hurt and anger and self-betrayal within you. What if you had actually given that emotion a vehicle to be able to be processed? Just a thought. Be gentle with yourself, maybe using some mindfulness practices to help you. Maybe you uncover some new practices that help you with your emotional detox and help you move through your emotions with compassion, with support, with care. Finding a process that works for you is what this is all about. I gave you some tips, but most importantly, I gave you some knowledge so that you, again, can make the best right next step for you. The next best right step for you. There we go. So I'm curious, let me know in the comments if you've experienced an emotional detox. I would love to hear some of the things that you're doing, or whether it's ancient traditions or some maybe new age spirituality to release. Next week, we are going to talk about how to rewire our brains for emotional resilience. So this is a big one too. Be sure that you like, subscribe, you share, you tune in, all of the things, you hit that bell for notifications. Stay tuned, stay mindful, stay compassionate. Stay clear, move like water. We are going to move like water. No, we are going to get through this crazy time. We are in this together. I got you, you got me. We're a community. Bye. Till next time.